we believe if people aren't connected to the natural world, they really won't have any idea what we stand to lose.
Welcome to reVyven, where environmental ideas come to life. At reVyven, we aim to connect, learn, and make a difference. Today we're talking to the co-founder, Melinda Taylor-Schutens. Good morning, Melinda. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. We're just about to go into a holiday, so kind of winding down for the year.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Feels like such an easy question, but very hard to answer. But yeah, I'll give it a try. I am a wife, a mom, an educator, a cat owner, an outside enthusiast, an author. I'm many things. Sometimes I dream about being one thing, but I'm many, many things. So that makes life very interesting.
Do you find it easy to do all of that, or are you...
That's a good question. I really enjoy being multifaceted and having lots of interests. Some days it's exhausting, but for the most part, it's what fuels me, and it's very much my personality. So yes, I enjoy it.
Do you have a hard time saying no to things?
Robert's asking this with a fake smile on his face because he knows the answer to that. Yes, I do have a hard time saying no to things because most things interest me. However, I have capacity issues. So yes, I have a hard time, but I'm learning to say no with a smile more often.
You said you were curious about many things. So is there maybe one or two things that you want to highlight?
Sure. I'm very interested in people in general. I find people and their stories and their interests fascinating. I'm interested in education. I'm interested in building community. I'm interested in the natural world. I'm interested in the environment. Yeah, I'm interested in a lot.
So that's more than just a couple things.
Yeah, and that I didn't even list them all, so I watered it down for you.
Yeah, we'll have to have another episode on listing all the curiosities.
Just on the interests alone, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, you have a lot of curiosities. Are there things that you're, let's say, more passionate about than others?
Yeah, there are a lot of things I can get really fired up about in a good way. I'm passionate about self-confidence, particularly in women. I'm passionate about females in sports. I'm passionate about education and very passionate about the environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe to transition a little bit, you're co-founder of reVyven. Can you tell us what reVyven means to you and
Sure.
what it is?
Yeah. We, meaning Robert and myself, launched reVyven in September of 2023. And the reason being is we had spent years as expats living in Switzerland. We're still currently residing here after being in the US for all of our lives. And when we moved here, we quickly fell in love with the landscape. And we felt that we should really take advantage of hiking and being immersed in nature because Switzerland is such a remarkably beautiful place. And having that said, then it prompted us to start writing our books. We've released 4 books. We have another one coming out in the spring of 2024. And we've conducted the field research for all of those books. So we've really become very intimate with the landscape of Switzerland. And like I said earlier, we've really fallen in love with Switzerland. It's just so beautiful. But having that said, we've also noticed changes in the over 15 years that we've resided in the country in terms of the landscape and environmental conditions having an impact on the landscape. So in our second book, we decided that we would work really hard to partner up with a organization that helps to protect and preserve the environment. And we created a partnership with Almighty Tree, and we sponsored a tree planting day. And that was really a beautiful experience for us, not only to be able to give back, but to do something tangible that you can see. You can see people working together in unison to help protect an area that has been deforested. And then you can also watch the growth of these trees, which is really a really cool experience. And we realized that there are a lot of environmental issues. There are a lot of talks transpiring about climate, but it's really nice when you can give people an action item. And so Robert and I got together and we talked and had a lot of conversations, and we figured, well, what if we launch a forum or an organization that highlights the people within the community, whether it's local or within Switzerland, and even outside. We're very receptive to highlighting people outside who really look at the environment in the inception of their organization, their company, their startup, tackle a problem, and then work really hard to solve that problem through creative ideas, through action items. So that's why we launched reVyven.
Okay. Oh, that sounds really good. And what kind of things have you done so far?
Our first reVyven event was a live forum held with an organization called Meinbaum Deinbaum, which means My Tree, Your Tree. And they are a group of landscape architects, urbanists, gardeners who work on planting trees in 4 gardens of the city. And through that, they help prevent heat islands in the city, they provide shade equity, and they just also increase the general shade in the cities to help prevent the heat in the summer, which we have experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we also highlighted a fabulous company called Love, and they make ice cream out of upcycled food that would otherwise become waste. And then last month we had the opportunity to sit down and talk in more detail with one of our partners, Almighty Tree, about how they started, where they're going, and their origin story.
Okay. No, that sounds really interesting. I'm sure you can hear more about those podcasts that we've had and recordings on other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of activities or plans do you have in 2024? It's already been a short time for 3 to 6 months of reVyven.
Yeah.
You've already done quite a bit, and now in 2024, what types of activities and plans do you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a lot planned for 2024. It already feels like we've started doing a lot of the planning. We're working on implementation. We're hoping to partner with several organizations in Basel and outside of the city. But we were really going to highlight key areas, and I can kind of allude to some of those. Not everything right now is set in stone, so I don't want to throw names around quite yet. But we'll talk more about circularity, the importance of circular economies. This year, we'll talk about the fashion industry. We will hopefully get into having a bit more immersive outdoor experiences, because that's a fundamental of reVyven, where we believe if people aren't connected to the natural world, they really won't have any idea what we stand to lose in terms of the environment. So we're really hoping to do some more immersive outdoor experience, whether that be tree planting days, cleanup days. Those are things that we've always done in the past and did last year through reVyven as well.
Okay. No, that sounds really good. You have a lot of things planned and a lot of different activities. Do you have a background in organizing groups, or maybe let's touch a little bit on your past history on what helps in creating reVyven and helping it keep going?
I don't even know what that would be called. Organizational management? Is that what it's called? I'm not sure. I don't have a background in that. I have a background in communications and education and studied nutrition and health and well-being, but I think we've always had an interest in people. We've always had a real passion for the environment, and through our book series, Fresh Air Kids Switzerland, we've met some really incredible people. So I think reVyven is really a accumulation of a lot of years of work and connecting with people within the community and highlighting that, and then really just sitting down with people and hearing their stories and seeing if those stories fit within what our goals are for moving forward with reVyven.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite a bit.
Okay.
But you spend a lot of times outdoors. You've written books on experiencing and traveling around Switzerland. Can you highlight a little bit more about your passion for nature and outdoors?
Yeah. Like I said, when we moved here, we really fell in love with Switzerland. It's one of our top most beautiful countries that we've seen. We haven't traveled the entire world. We've seen quite a bit of it, particularly in Europe, but it's really beautiful. And so it's not hard to fall in love with Switzerland and the waterfalls and the lakes and the alpine regions and the culture and the cows. And it's really captivating on so many levels. And when we moved here, we fell in love with it to the point that when we were pregnant with our first child, we thought, how are we going to maintain this with a kid? And we just quickly realized that we loved it too much to abandon. So we strapped our children on our chests and backpacks, pushed them in strollers, and the outdoors became an extension of our parenting. And it's been such a fabulous way to raise our children, to educate our children on the importance of being immersed in nature, on the intricacies of the natural world, on empathy for animals and creatures of all sizes. And it's really taught us to appreciate the small things in life, from sunrises to sunsets, to how drastically ever-changing the natural world is. And particularly in the Alps, you can look up one moment and you'll see the mountain peaks, and the next moment they're gone, and then they come back again. And so it's so dynamic that it's just truly, truly captivated us in such a profound way that we can't imagine a life without it now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're also an educator, so maybe can you talk a little bit about what you teach and maybe some of the different style you bring to the classroom?
Mm-hmm. I primarily teach children in the classroom and maintain their biliteracy through English if they're native English speakers, but immersed in the local German-speaking schools. But I think something that's really important, particularly for children, even for adults, is really the hands-on element. And so to extend that outside of the classroom, nature is such a phenomenal educator that it allows children to be observers, to be tangible with what they pick up and what they manipulate. It highlights different multiple intelligences. I think nature for a parent, whether you're an educator or not, just provides so much in terms of education. And it's just a great extension of a classroom, a family life. So yeah, I love it. It's great.
Sounds really good. In terms of education and nature, what is perhaps one of your most memorable moments outside, and whether it be education or not?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can highlight a lot, and a lot tend to be very emotional for me. I would say how important nature is in the lives of people, in such that when we planted trees, and we've been a part of this on more than one occasion, but how that can be a real spiritual experience for people. A lot of people will plant trees on behalf of those that we've lost. They gift trees for renewal when somebody has passed. I think that speaks volumes, and how as humans we need that regrowth and rebirth. So that's quite profound. I had a very life-altering experience with a friend who passed away, and a request that she asked me on her behalf, which had to do with nature in the Swiss Alps. That was, again, life-altering in so many ways. So I think I really believe that because humans evolved from the natural world, we are naturally inclined to seek it out. We are our best selves when we're in nature. I've had some of the most unbelievable conversations while outdoors. Mm-hmm. And those conversations have unfolded with virtual strangers. As Robert knows, I've gone on several retreats with groups of friends, with people I don't know, with people I do know quite intimately. But one of the key takeaways I always have is how bonded those groups of people are at the end of the 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, however many days we are in outside. And again, that can be with total strangers, but there's a real leveling field of being outside. And I think that that's one of the beauties of nature. And it's such a simple existence. You're hiking, you're talking, you're admiring the beauty. It's stripping away all the extras that kind of fill our daily lives and really getting to the heart of what matters. And I think there's such beauty in that I hope that I'm able to be a part of it for as long as I'm here.
That sounds really nice. Do you have a favorite quote for outside or nature?
I have a favorite quote that I heard recently from a poet. I think her name is Andrea Gibson, and she's amazing. But she highlighted this quote from Maya Angelou, and when I heard it, it really resonated with me because I think it's the aim of what we're trying to do with reVyven. And we have, in the short time that we've been in existence and been speaking with people, have really come to the realization that there is no perfect in terms of the environment. And every time we meet with someone, whether it's someone who's in tree planting or someone who's creating a product line or someone who's trying to upcycle something and turning it into something of value, it's not linear. There will always be flaws in the system. There will always be politics embedded. But this quote, which Maya Angelou said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." And I think that highlights perfectly what the people we meet with are really striving for. Whether it's making clothes, whether it's making ice cream, you're never going to be able to appease all of your target market. But I think it's doing the best that you can at the time you start, and then having reiterations of what the best means as you learn from the people you meet, from your customers, from those you're educating, from the audience. And I think there's beauty in that, is that there is no perfection, but it's the ability to take a step back and say, well, how can we do this better?
Yeah, that's really good. That's really nice. I mean, it's also good, like you were saying, when we meet new people and we interact with different people who attend our events, it's always nice to meet like-minded people or even strangers that, appreciate kind of the activity that we're doing. And I think it's reassuring, and it's also kind of motivating.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And I would also say that we may not always meet like-minded people, but I'm a firm believer in having a growth mindset. So if I can learn something from somebody or someone who's able to show me a different way of thinking or doing something, then I'm very receptive to that. I hope I am very receptive to that opportunity, because I think within that's where our greatest growth, we have the greatest potential for growth.
Well, and I think where that starts is kind of around conversations, being open to conversations, being able to have, let's say, maybe not always easy conversations, but really challenging each other's thoughts and ideas, and learning from each other. So if you don't start with a dialogue, then it's very difficult to learn from each other.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we like to do with the live forum events, is to really open it up to those in attendance, like the audience. And I'm okay with people interrupting in the middle of a conversation if they have a comment or a question, because I really think that exchange of ideas and knowledge is where some of the best ideas come from.
And also some of the good interactions too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really there, as we always kind of preface the fact that we're trying to focus on intellectual humility, that we don't have, we're really not trying to be dogmatic with how we enter any of these conversations we have with people, but being very receptive and open, but also open to the fact that the environment is quite an expansive field, and we don't know everything. I mean,
I don't know how any one person can.
We can't. There's no way. I mean, we read a lot, but there is only so many hours in a day, and we have a family, and we have other obligations and other jobs that we're working on. So we can't know everything. And I think that's part of the beauty of these live forum events, is I feel that we take away so much. And each time we leave a space or a person, I just constantly reiterate what was said, or I really get stuck on one topic that came up and really try to digest that fully. And then, we take notes and we talk about it and how can we do better, or how can we expand on an idea. And I think that's a really cool aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think meeting people who are experts or have extensive knowledge in what they're doing, that's also a way of learning for ourselves, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's very nice. It's a part of it I love.
Nice. Well, I'm going to transition. I have a totally random question. So, what is your superpower?
Oh, that's a hard question. I can tell you one of the superpowers I would love to acquire would be to know every language in the world and speak them fluently, because we know how difficult it's been to...
I'd be happy with just one or two. But.
Yeah, exactly. We know how hard it's been to acquire the German language. But a superpower, I'd have to say maybe empathy, because I've worked in so many different areas, but right out of college and in college, I worked for the Ronald McDonald Houses in both Delaware and Philadelphia, and I met people from all over the world who were experiencing the worst of days for children who were ill and were seeking treatment, whatever treatment their child needed. And I think from a relatively young age, that taught me to empathize with other people, to also realize what matters in life, and that really being able to meet people where they are is essential in life. So I would have to say empathy, and that was such a profound learning experience for me at a young age. So I hope I've been able to carry that through the years that I have been removed from that environment. I
would tend to agree. You are very empathetic, which is nice.
That's nice. Thank you.
If you could be or do anything, what would it be? Almost like your dream job, or some kind of like...
Geez.
Maybe that's a different question, but...
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I can go in so many areas with this. I think the first thing would be maybe immortal, because I do always keenly aware of the fact that I am mortal. And so if I had unlimited time, it would feel like a great opportunity. But, I could go off and say I'd love to be a helicopter pilot, which is true. But I think at the end, of the day, I think being kind just is so essential. And being human, like truly being human, is really important. So I could be all these highly educated, highly skilled professions, but being kind is important.
That's nice. That's really good. If you had to focus on one thing in 2024, and I really mean one thing. I mean, you tend to say yes to a lot and do many things and have lots of curiosities, but if there's just one, what would it be?
It's a good question. And it's something I'm working on in terms of simplification. But the first thing that comes to mind, which I think would transcend all of the areas that I'm currently working on, is to build community. And I think that is really essential coming out of COVID, where we spent more time isolated than ever and alone. Having lived in another country for as long as we have now, I think creating community is essential to feeling rooted in where you live and feeling connected to not only the local community, but to other expats and people from all around the world. And what we're doing at reVyven, I mean, building a community of people, and we always say this, who give a damn, is really beautiful. Like, I love that part of it. I love meeting people who spend their days planting trees and getting their hands dirty and thinking of how they can create better products that are not only kind to the planet, but to the people who are making them, to their customer. I think community is really, I think that'll be my word for 2024.
Okay. No, that sounds really good. I mean, we are based in Switzerland, and we have already a small, let's say, outreach. But really, I mean, how we operate is global, and I think it's always good to find and hear the different stories around the world. So
Yeah.
As a little bit of a shameless plug, maybe if those who are listening can reach out and share their story, we'd love to entertain all different ideas on positive impacts around the world.
Sure. And I think even with our books, like we tried to start a community with our books when we released the first book in 2019. And our mission for our books has always been to inspire families and individuals to connect with nature one outdoor experience at a time. And if we can do that as a community, I think it's getting back to what's really important.
And to even make it easier to get outside.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's as much a guidebook as it is a motivation tool to go experience nature.
Yeah, and if you can do that with others, then all the better.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Okay, something a little bit that we do typically at the end of our interviews is the speed round. Okay. So you kind of created this, so now you're on the other side of it. So.
I love it. Okay.
Okay, so do you believe one person, one organization has the power to impart positive change?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. I think we've seen it throughout history. I think the power of one is where the greatest things happen. So we always ask this because we really think that if one person thinks that they don't have the ability to impart change, I think they need to rethink again. And we want to inspire people to think that way. And so I am a firm believer that absolutely, yes.
Of all the projects you do, what brings you the most joy?
I love connecting with people. I could spend all day talking to people and hearing their stories. So I think it's the human connection and highlighting the human stories of all the people we meet really brings me the greatest joy.
Nice. How do you feel when you meet people at the forum events or on an immersive outdoor experience?
I feel like that, this sounds ridiculous, but I really truly mean it, that there's a part of me that will want to be connected to that person forever. Because I feel like you create such a beautiful bond with them, whether it's sharing a coffee or it's talking to them or it's watching a sunrise or a sunset or sharing a meal. I think it just highlights our need to be connected to one another. And so that for me is just, it's the best.
I don't know if you remember this, but years ago when we got married, somebody said that all the people that are present at the wedding is the only time that they will ever be all together.
Wow.
So in that sense, each event is not the same people all the time. So we're uniquely connected to everybody at each event.
Yeah, and that makes me cry a little because you think you asked at your wedding the most important people in your life to be present and to share that day with you. But to know they'll never be in one space together again, it's a little bit beautifully sad. So I think that also goes to highlight that the people we connect with, I always want to leave them better than when we met them at the door or greeted them at an event. Like, did they walk away feeling that what they contributed was beneficial and positive, and that we appreciated not only their time but their insight? So I think
we shared the time and the ideas together. So we hope that they have the same view. I
love that. Yes.
What impact do you hope to have in the world or leave in the world?
I would just say I would want people to be inspired to be their best selves.
Okay.
Whether I have anything to do with that or not, I don't know. But to really make a difference in their corner of the world, however small that may be, in whatever area that they see fit. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite book or books?
That's hard.
Types of books.
Yeah, that's tricky because I like to read, and I'm a little bit of a person who can read multiple books at one time. But I would say one of the most impactful books that I've read, and I need to reread it because it's been a while, is Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. And that was quite a powerful book for me, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you see reVyven going in the future? It's only been a short, 3 to 6 months since its idea.
Yeah.
And 2024 is focusing on community.
Yes, exactly.
So where maybe beyond, so where would you like it to go, or where do you see it going?
It's a concept. We just had a lovely meeting with a company the other day, and we were coming back on the train, and we were kind of reiterating what was discussed and where we see it going. I would really love for companies, organizations, nonprofits, educators to reach out and either share their intellect with us, want to highlight and share the intellect that they have, but also to work with organizations to help get people in the outdoors more frequently. Mm-hmm. I dream of having an office space. But I think ultimately highlighting people doing pretty remarkable things and really shining a light on them so that others in the community can either get involved, or we've always said that if you have an idea that you're doing in Basel, which is where our headquarters are, if that's an idea that could transcend itself to somewhere in America or somewhere in South America, then we would love for the people that we're meeting to be able to share that intellect, to have their concept be adopted in another part of the world who would benefit from what they're doing. That's something that we really like, the idea of idea sharing and spreading.
Okay.
Yeah.
As the other half of reVyven, what do you highlight, or what do you work on?
Like, what is my key roles of reVyven? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. What is
okay. I do a lot of the community outreach, a lot of the correspondence and communication that we have, a lot of the logistics of setting up space and meeting with people, and I think it's trying to bring the community together.
Okay. Yeah,
and creating partnerships that to us are meaningful for both the people that we're reaching out to, or the organizations we're reaching out to, but also for ourselves as well. So yeah, I'd say that's what I do. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thanks for taking the time to have this conversation, and thanks to the listeners. We hope you enjoy the episode, and more to come.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to be awesome and share this podcast with your friends. Click subscribe, rate, and review. Do you have a story to tell? An organization you'd like to tell the world about? We love to hear from you and our global community. So please get in touch with us at reVyven.com. That's reVyven.com. Or send us an email at reVyven.com@gmail.com.